Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. When we looked at the FX-8350 a few weeks ago, I was not overly impressed with its performance, but I knew there's one more CPU I absolutely had to test. And so, the time has finally come to check out Kingpin of AMD's FX processors, the 9590. Proudly advertised as world's first 5GHz processor, AMD even featured this CPU in all AMD build video on their own YouTube channel. Talk about confidence. The FX-9590 was released in June 2013 for $329 USD, or if you paid extra $40, you could get it bundled with a 120mm closed liquid cooler. Still manufactured on a 32nm process and with the same 8-core, 8-thread configuration, the biggest change with 9590 are clock speeds. Cores have a base frequency of 4.7 GHz and under load they can turbo up to 5 GHz. FX processors are known to be power hungry, and this CPU is no exception, boasting an impressive 220W TDP. Speaking of which, total idle power consumption measured at 141 watts, raising up to astonishing 372 watts with CPU at full load. Testing was performed on identical setup that I used with the FX-8350, but for the memory, which was upgraded to a 16GB Corsair Vengeance Pro kit running 2 sticks at 1866 MHz, and before you ask, yes, I've tried running a 2400 and 2133 memory kits, no dice. Thanks to a fully unlocked multiplier, achieving 5 GHz all-core overclock was no more than 2 clicks away, and to remain stable, my processor asked for 1.31 volts on V-core. I've also made sure to disable all power saving features, and now it's benchmarking time. 9590 pushed 646 points in Cinebench R23 single-threaded test and managed to beat the 8350 by 4%. Finally, we have a match for Intel's 1st-gen Core i7 processor. 7zip benchmark ranked 9590 only slightly above the 8350, and the difference seems marginal at best. Despite this, AMD processors clearly have an edge over Intel in this test. Go AMD! The 9590 then took 11 minutes and 27 seconds to render Blender's car demo, making it about 25 seconds faster over the FX-8350, but still about 2 minutes slower when compared to a overclocked Sandy Bridge, the i7 2700K. Last test uses Handbrake to convert 10GB video file to fast 1080p 30 preset. 9590 took 30 minutes and 18 seconds to finish. That's under a minute quicker versus the 8350, and once again about 2 minutes slower than overclocked 2700K. It's not that impressive, is it? Hardly surprising. After all, under the skin, 9590 is nearly identical to its predecessor. I can only imagine how disappointing it must have been for those who upgraded back in the day. F1 2018 kicks off game benchmarks, and right off the bat, 9590 pushed both 1% lows and average by 5 FPS over the FX-8350, so I'll take that. Quick peek at overclocked 2700K unfortunately puts 9590 back to its retail box. This almost feels bad. 9590's performance in Dirt Rally when using Ultra preset only matched FX-8350. Whilst it's more time consuming, I always run all game benchmarks 3 times and then pick the average result, which massively helps to eliminate errors. Not sure what to say really, but let's move on. Deus Ex Mankind Divided continues to see subpar performance, and 9590 managed to push 81 FPS on average, which is 2 FPS less than what 8350 pushed a few weeks back. At this point, I've decided to swap back to the same 1600 MHz memory kit used with the 8350. This then lowered the FPS further by a small margin, so in goes the 1866 MHz kit again, and we carry on. Forza Horizon 4 continues with this trend, and FX-9590 gets outperformed by its older sibling by roughly 9%. All this extra power and heat, and yet it's slow in games. Either that or my CPU is simply broken. Shadow of the Tomb Raider next, and unsurprisingly, 9590 falls short again, this time delivering 8% less FPS than FX-8350 and staggering 58% less than Intel's 2700K. Rainbow Six Siege with very high preset sees the 9590 sink to the bottom of this graph, on par with the cheapest Ryzen 3 1200 AF. In Far Cry 6 with Ultra preset, 9590 pushed 58 FPS on average, which was within a margin of error matching FX-8350. The overclocked 2700K left both FX processors behind and was faster by 34%. Last game tested was Cyberpunk 2077, using high preset and no DLSS. 9590 delivered 57 FPS on average and 1% lows at 29, once again falling short of the 8350. Okay, let's just wrap this up. Well, only fair to say, I'm really disappointed with the results of today's testing. I always envisioned the 9590 as the one, the true kingpin of this generation of AMD CPUs. To see it barely match or lose to its older, cheaper and less power-hungry sibling, I could not believe my eyes during testing. I went back to BIOS hoping I must have left some silly power saving option turned on, but looks like it is what it is and the show just must go on. Have you ever owned a 9590? What was your experience using it? Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.